listening to The Metro on 1019 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II. In 1999, Harper, a novelist, wrote a book that exposed his friend group and himself. It caused all kinds of chaos among the friends, but it ultimately strengthened the bonds between all of them. Now, that's a loose and perhaps overly simplified depiction of the Best Man film, but those bonds between those characters are so nuanced, and those nuances are kind of the reasons why that film became a hit. Now, 27 years later, after a second film and a series on Peacock, those characters are transitioning from the screen and to the page in a new book. It's called The Best Man, Unfinished Business, and is written by the original film's writer and director, Malcolm D. Lee, and author Jane Allen. Joining me now in the studio to talk about why this series resonates is Malcolm D. Lee. Malcolm, welcome to the Metro. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How
now,
about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. You said this is your very first book tour.
Yeah.
How's it going? You said it's going all right.
No, it's going great.
It's going great.
It's going great. You know, people are coming out, and wanting to hear and see me and hear from me, and it's all without having Morris Chestnut and Taye Diggs on the ride, and Nia Long on the ride. I mean, that's pretty surprising because everybody wants to see them.
This time you're center stage. You're the face now.
Yeah. Just so happens.
Do you like that?
I mean, I like it. I don't know if they like it, but I like it.
Have they given you feedback about the book? Have you heard from them?
You mean the actors?
Yeah, the actors.
Yeah. Well, three of them. They have to give me feedback because we're all in partnership together on a bourbon. But we can talk about that later. Like Harold, Morris, and Taye have all read, and they are very supportive. And so it's been great. I mean, those are three guys that were at my wedding also.
Oh, wow.
So it's like. We're very, very. Well, I'm very close with all the actors, but those thus far, those are the three that have read it.
And I suspect there wasn't any drama that ensued in the background of that wedding, right? You're good.
My wedding? No, it was all good.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, awesome. I want to go back a little bit to kind of your the background in film. Just talk a little bit about your career. So, The Best Man was your first major film. Right, but
My
I imagine
first
it wasn't
film,
your first.
I mean, I'd done a couple of short films prior.
Okay.
But that was the first feature. Yeah.
Wow. And those short films were they for school or was that for professional?
A little bit of both. When you're in grad school, you hope that you get some exposure. On a bigger platform than just showing it in the classroom or the lecture hall or what have you. So yeah, I mean my second year short got to win a couple of film festivals. It also aired on Showtime. It aired on PBS. So, I got a little bit of exposure, early, and you just hustle and do what you can. But it wasn't until 1997 when I wrote The Best Man, and I wasn't even trying to even direct it. It was just something that I was trying to write so I could sell it and make another movie that I was trying to make. It was my sixth screenplay, and so. In the midst of writing, I said, I can direct this. And I knew it was, I thought it could be commercial enough to sell. And then, it turns out I was right. And I thought I could direct the movie. And, we eventually landed at Universal Pictures.
And the rest is history. How do you know that? How do you know that in writing a film, I could direct this too? Was it you already saw it in your head? You saw the shots?
I mean, these were characters that I've been wanting to see on film for such a long time, particularly when it came to black men. I wasn't seeing black men that I could relate to, that I felt were me and my friends who went to Georgetown University, educated black men. On screen at that time were very kind of cookie cutter, check their ethnicity at the door type of characters that just, okay, because you're in higher education, you have somehow got to leave the blackness behind.
Yeah.
There's assimilation, but there's also something as code switching, and we all do it, right?
Right.
We were Duolingo before Duolingo, right? So, I think that it was just something that I wanted to do, and I thought because it's in a wedding milieu, which were very popular at the time, wedding movies, that there'd be takers for it, and there were 8 roles in there for black actors to be people. They were and it's centered around 4 black men, and that was the goal. Because it was really kind of in a response to Waiting to Exhale, that had 4 women at the center, and I thought the depictions of black men in that weren't great. They're certainly not relatable to me. So I wanted to make sure that I did that with my first movie.
I mean, in that, it sounds like that motivation in that movie to elevate these kind of upperly mobile black characters, nuanced black men. It's extended into a lot of the films you made. I mean, you've made a lot of staples. These Girls Trip. There's Undercover Brother. What other inspiration do you pull from to create these types of films and create classics that people can laugh at till today?
I mean, I think it comes from my my family, and also having a cousin in the industry who told me very, very early on, like, how powerful the moving image is, and that it's not something to be, treated lightly. That they can inspire people. I mean, think about Birth of a Nation, like that inspired the Klan, right? Not to go dark with it, but I mean, the moving images, particularly of marginalized people, have to be handled with care. Doesn't mean that you have to all overwhelmingly be positive, but you have to be nuanced and layered in your depictions, because we are all human beings. And my mission has always been to make the so-called black film mainstream. But more than that is to highlight the humanity of black people and normalize black life in America.
When you say that, some of these scenarios come from family members, I'm wondering how much of your own life do you put in your work? Harper as a novelist, he was like, I'm going to put it all in there, let it all out. Is that
it's
something
funny.
Similar to what you were doing?
I will say this, no, when I say my family, I think they're an influence. They're a huge influence on, because my father's side of the family in particular were all educated folks, and my dad was a school teacher, and there's being upwardly mobile and wanting, and aspirational. In terms of the personal, it's impossible not to infuse your experiences and life perspectives and POVs into these characters. But I'm not exactly Harper.
Right.
I'm not exactly Lance or Quentin. I want to be Quentin at times, and I very much relate to Jordan, and there's just this desire to just do better and achieve and reach for the mountaintop. That's always been kind of a thing, and sometimes it's to our detriment. Our high achieving black people, because we got to be better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Is there a character, or I guess you just kind of said it already, that you kind of relate to all of them in some way?
They all come from me, and so there's obviously I'm not a Shelby. That's
right.
That's definitely not my ministry.
That would be an interesting self-critique.
Yeah, it would be. No, I feel like, yes, it's funny too when you say about like Harper put it all out there. Mm-hmm. He was trying to be a little more nuanced, and I think some things get a little bit lost in, Harper doesn't actually say that he slept with Mia in the book.
Yeah.
He's saying that he slept with Jordan, but Mia was, kind of a comfort level thing or whatever. So anyway, it's interesting, and I think that is at some point going to need to be explained as well.
I do want to get into some of the explanation here, because there may be some listeners who don't know the full story,
sure,
who haven't seen the movie. But Harper being the main character, Mia being his best friend, Lance's fiance at the time,
right?
And so the whole drama is the fact that they find out that
the best man slept with the bride.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there we go for folks who aren't familiar.
And for those of you who aren't familiar, shame on you.
Right, exactly. You're listening to The Metro on 1019 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II. My guest right now is Malcolm D. Lee. He's a film director with many staple films. We're discussing the Best Man series. It spawned 2 films and a Peacock series as well. His new book, The Best Man, Unfinished Business, extends the stories of those characters beyond the screen and to the page in that new book. So to the book itself, why decide to write a book? You've been doing films all this time.
Yeah. I've always loved the written word, and I'm a storyteller at heart, and first and foremost. If I don't write, I don't get to make my first movie. And so I've always wanted to be expansive in my storytelling, and I fantasize about being a novelist. I thought that after The Best Man final chapters, we were done.
Yeah,
it was
final
difficult.
chapters.
Yeah, that's I said 5 chapters for a reason,
Right.
and fans were like, "Oh, we want some more." And I was like, "No." It was very difficult to bring all those actors back together, to get the kind of budget we wanted from the studio. There's a lot of restrictions when you're doing a TV show or a movie, and even though it's a great medium, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I've had. I was like, okay, I'm done, right? Like I have other stories to tell, and I don't want to do this. So when the dust settled and the smoke cleared, I was like, well, I do like novel writing, or at least I want to try it. And here were characters that were already established with backstory, and there was more story to tell, particularly after Harper and his bride got a divorce, and they're raising a daughter, co-parenting, and now they're on 2 different continents. And so what does life look like for Harper, who's always been trying to reach for the gold ring, for the brass ring, and say, oh, like he's made it, but he's alone. And he doesn't quite fit into his friend group in the same way. So I wanted to explore those dynamics, as well as the dynamics between he and Jordan, who have always been the will they, won't they couple of the franchise. Yeah. And then, Harper's also deciding, well, have I made the right decision in terms of Robin? Did I give enough? Was I reciprocal enough? And the answer is definitely no, right? He was selfish. He wanted what he wanted, and now he does have some regret and some second thoughts. So will he reconcile there? And so I wanted to explore that as well, and deal with these 3 characters. Let them have their POVs for each chapter. So chapters are dedicated to Harper, Robin, and Jordan, and how they look at life. And you get to see the interior lives of these characters, which was a great exploration for me as a storyteller, to be able to use all 5 senses: sight, sound, feel, touch, smell. So, that was the impetus.
I want to ask about your co-author, Jane Allen. She's also author of Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. How did the 2 of you connect initially for this project?
Yeah, well, I knew I needed a collaborator, and I knew I wanted to have a Black woman do it, because Black women are such an integral part of the Best Man story. And so I read her stuff. I interviewed her and a number of authors. But one of the things that made Jane stand out was her life experience. She's from Detroit. If we don't know, she's a native Detroiter. I don't know if that's what y'all call each other, but yeah, she's from here. She went to Duke. She went to Harvard Law. She used to work for Prince. She worked in the music industry. She had a number of businesses that she had started and ran. And I really loved her life experience. And obviously I loved her writing. But then when we sat down to talk, she asked a key question. She says, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Well, I want to exercise a new muscle. I want to." She's like, "Yeah, but what are you doing this for?" I didn't quite understand I said, "Well, I don't know, what are you getting at?" She's like, "Do you want to win? Like, are you going to be fully in on this? Are you just trying
to make a good book or just convert the movie into
right? And I certainly want to win, number one, and definitely wanted to make a book that was culturally impactful. I definitely wanted to take this and make it literary, in addition to making it cinematic. I think we have the great advantage that we have characters that people already know what they look like, what their facial expressions look like, how they sound, that will make this read or this listen very cinematic, but it's also very literary. And we can go into some places that you're not able to go to in a book or a television series.
What else do you think Jane brought to that process? I mean, you're a writer, so you write screenplays, of course, but I imagine, or I guess you could elevate for me kind of what that transition really looks like when you go from no visuals to the page. It kind of sounds like in your last answer you had the advantage of not having to worry about it being so visual.
Well, you can't just rely on people's recollection. You have to write something that's going to actually
especially
evoke
for newcomers.
Yeah, you have to evoke thought, evoke the visual, the sound, and everything. So it was great, for me to have that canvas to play on, and she being there was a great sounding board and a great challenger to the story that I wanted to tell, and it was a great collaboration because we'd go back and forth and on our outline about, well, how can we make this more challenging to the character? How can we get into some themes? How can we get into some healing, for these characters? So it was all like she had the right attitude and the right temperament for me on this.
But there's also an element to, like, in the original film, at least, there's the scene where Lance is reading the book and he finds out kind of
he reads between the lines.
He reads between the lines and finds out his best man was sleeping with his fiance. But there's like the red light on his face.
Yeah.
Right? There's elements like that where you get the emotion visually that you have to then try to convert it into the written word. And I'm sure that's something that Alan and yourself are very familiar with, but you have to lean on that a little bit more, I imagine.
Yeah. And that was beautiful to be able to have to do that. I mean, in movies you have to show, not tell. And in books you got to tell. And I love being able to tell, right? And direct people to where they're going to go. Making a movie is not just about like, okay, here's a script, actors go, right? There's I work with a director of photography. I work with, a production designer. I work with a costume designer. I'm working with the actors about like, okay, I want this emotion behind it. I want this tone and or whatever. So there's the whole thing that you're crafting, but you have to do that with the words. And I really wanted to make sure, and I told Jane this, we want to be literary, right? I want to use words. I was an English major in undergrad, and so I want to put my English lit brain on and cap on and try to tell a story, because I was not trying to do this just so I could make a movie or a television show. I wanted the book to stand on its own, and I think we achieved that.
Why should fans or newcomers pick this book up? What sets it apart from the series, from the films, and perhaps other novels that people might read?
I don't know how it sets it apart from other novels. I just know that this is something that you need in your life. That you need a break from what's happening in the world today. You need an escape. You get to go to 4 different cities, including Accra, Ghana, 2 different continents. You get to experience these characters in a way that you haven't before. And what's interesting is there have been people who have read it and had not been familiar with the best man characters. People who don't even read books, who are just like, wow, like I'm leaning forward and I could not put this book down. So I think it's a propulsive read. I think you'll get a lot of laughs. You'll get some emotion. You'll probably get some reflection on your own life about it, particularly if you're of these characters' age, or maybe like, a 10-year swing on each side. And certainly I think you're going to get that, as a younger person as well.
Because there's a lot of lessons to be learned about parenthood. There's a lot of lessons to be learned about love and relationships, as they are in all of the.
And friendships, right? Right. Yeah. The best man started out as, centering 4 black men. And I don't want that to be lost either. Like the black men are at the center of this narrative, right? And always have been. And I think women have come to the party in droves. The brothers have to be dragged along, and they enjoy when they get there. And I think that that can't be forgotten, that it was written for and about black men.
That's fair. And I think too, for me, nowadays I'm wondering too that this story, not wondering, but feeling as if this story has not lost its luster because we're in 2025 and we're like in a new era of people who need to be primary and centered at a certain time. I think what's great about these stories is they bring the nuances not only with them, but their relationships with other groups, with women, with people from the LGBTQ community. All that kind of stuff is relevant today, but it still has its focus, as you just said, in black men. I guess for you, how important, or was it even a challenge to try to bring the best man forward in 2025, considering it had been, a series a few years ago, and then it had a longer history, way back?
Look, I think these characters are evergreen, and they're evolving. They don't just stay the same, and they're evolving with us in real time, I think the things that they're dealing with as, what are we, millennials, Gen X? I don't know what we are. I don't know how, whatever. But my age group, there's a lot of relatability to these characters being in the sandwich years of taking care of your kids and raising your parents as well, and life's decisions, right? Career changes, divorce, health issues, all kinds of things that we are dealing with in real time. So bringing it to the 2025 was not a problem, because it's all stuff that people are dealing with and relating to right now.
Yeah, that's fair. You were born in 1970, is that
correct?
Right? I believe that makes you Gen X.
Gen X.
My producers can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I'm getting a nod. Gen X.
And I tell you what, the greatest generation to me, to me.
I don't know.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. We have had the benefit of changing the channel with pliers and also remotes, and we've also be able to dig in the stacks for records, and now we've got Spotify. So we've seen
you've seen
a lot.
So much change.
We have seen a lot, and we've been able to adapt with the times. Now it's going to get to a place where my grandchildren are going to have chips in their head, and I'm like, nah, I ain't doing that. That's too far
back. That's fair. The 70s was a good era, but you were a child in the 70s. I kind of look back to my parents. It's like the 70s was a golden era. But to this tour, I want to get to the tour real quick and just talk about the talk that you have today. You're going to be at the Garden Theater. It's going to be hosted by Source Booksellers. You're going to be talking about the book a little bit more. What are you looking forward to getting into sharing with folks in the city of Detroit today?
Well, what's fantastic is that Jane Allen will be joining me. She's a native to this city. So come out and support her. She was great in putting this book together. And with me and collaborating with me, so I really hope that she told me that Detroit's going to be lit, and so I don't want to make her out a liar. Okay, number one, our editor Chelsea Johns is from Detroit as well as Tamara Chapman, who is the founder of and the owner operator of Storehouse Voices, which is our publisher, also a native Detroit. So I think if this ain't the most lit city, then it's a problem, right? Then it's not on me, it's on them. Or it's on Detroit. So I don't know. Detroit, show up and, show some love.
Detroit, consider this a call to action and show up and show out to this call. So how many more cities do you have in your tour?
At least 2. We're going to Los Angeles and to Martha's Vineyard. We're hoping to add a few more things along the way.
Okay. And then I guess for all the people who are newcomers to this story, pick up the book. It sounds like it's not anything that would keep them from watching it. They don't need to see the show. They don't need to see the first 2 movies to fall in love with these characters.
They do not at all. I think they will enjoy it regardless of where they start with these characters. They will have a much more enhanced experience if they watch the movies and the television series, but they don't need to. They can always go back to it and catch up with it as well, because we do a fair amount of backstory in the book as well, to catch people up to where these characters are and what their backstory is, without front loading it too much. So there's enough in the book that you can just start fresh, and for those who are familiar with it, they're really going to be on a great ride.
All right, Malcolm D. Lee is the director of The Best Man films and many others. His new book, The Best Man: Unfinished Business, picks up where the Peacock series left off. Malcolm, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
My pleasure.
Also, folks, I want to let you all know that the event, The Best Man Unfinished Business book tour, is going to be today, July 15th, at the Garden Theater, hosted by Source Booksellers. You can check that out. What time is that going to be, Malcolm?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock today. So check it out. Come on out, Detroit, and represent. Coming up, Detroit has world-class food, and it's not all in cloth napkin. Fine dining restaurants. Tia spoke with celebrity chef and restaurateur Marcus Samuelson about how global Detroit's food scene really is. We'll be right back on the Metro.